So the internet allows us to garner support on many issues, measure online actions in a way that we never could with just offline efforts before. Change.org is one example of how people come together to sign petitions for a cause. Twitter allows us to vent our anger over issues and tag the policy makers involved to press upon them the need for change. But does it make us, the people generating the garbage, using the water, taking up road space, more conscious of our actions and therefore more responsible? Gopal, is a very, while social media, like Dilip said, you can make a video viral of someone littering a metro and probably there is some amount of fear in people automatically that we shouldn't go and do it. It's also given rise to this whole new class of armchair activists who just sit and vent on social media but really are not making any change in their lives.
Well, I think social media is useful for bringing about a solution only in short-term one-off incidents. Somebody waves around a gun in the lobby or car park of a five-star, suddenly that guy gets arrested because of a social media video doing the rounds. So that kind of stuff could be checked. But if you want a substantial behavioral change, and this is where I respectfully disagree with both Shaina and Mr. Cherian, it's my experience that these bite-sized, small little build-ups through social media, through children, etc., that kind of stuff does not work. We saw that with fireworks. For the last 20 years, children in schools have been told about fireworks. They have transported this to their parents. But eventually, do we see significant changes on behalf of the actors themselves? No, we haven't seen that. The one thing that seems to work in this country with large-scale changes that you need is a deterrence, is penalty, is imposition. Unfortunately, I think the people of India need to have a whip for them to fall in line. I haven't seen voluntary movements really bringing about the huge amounts of change that we have come to expect. The steel flyover, you needed an interim order from the NGT that pretty much frustrated it. Chopping of trees in Delhi, you needed a Delhi High Court stepping in. Fireworks, you needed the Supreme Court stepping in and saying we're banning the manufacture of it. Each of these cases, you've had the court stepping in, and it's not like they step in very often. There are many times they decline to step in. And for me, I think the substantial change comes in if we change our thought on environment particularly. My real concern is environment. We are not going to have enough water to breathe or air in 5 years from now, maybe even less. So it's a drastic scenario. For us to say that, look, let's have sustainable development, let's slowly move along, all that is gone. We tried that 20 years ago, we tried that 10 years ago, we're still trying it, forget it. Now our priority should be no tree will be cut. You can plant crores of, not trees, saplings which will take 20 years to grow. So for me, that's not a compensation. You will not touch a fully grown tree in an urban center where the city is essentially in the ICU, people are trying to breathe and having bronchial issues, and the governments, the municipalities keep coming back with development plan after development plan insensibly. They keep saying we're trying to foster and improve infrastructure. For me, this is bunkum and nonsense. The minute you chop a tree, you're losing water, you're losing an air source, you're losing entire natural habitats around that. I think we have reached a stage where there's no question of having development anymore if it's going to come at the cost of the environment. And for us, that message has to go out to every citizen in this country.
Okay, so you're saying that environment has to become the focus and small, tiny bits of measures are not going to work. Mr. Ravichandar, from you, that's what, just sum up the conversation. And Gopal's made a very valid point. I mean, we are heading into a very catastrophic kind of a situation. And the pace of the change that we're seeing, whatever level of citizen engagement we're seeing, is simply not enough currently, isn't it?
Yes, in fact, I would agree with Gopal. And while we keep talking about sustainable development, all actions taken typically by government is against this sustainability movement. It works against it. And let me just give you 2 or 3 quick examples. I don't think government really cares for pedestrians or do something about mobility, walking as a mobility mode. Governments I don't think they lose sleep that they're cutting trees, as Gopal said. Even one more tree we really can't afford to cut. I really believe, for example, politically, if I want to solve a problem like Bellandur Lake in Bangalore, which has foam, I actually tweeted a week ago saying, can we say that the goal we will embrace is one day a human being will swim in Bellandur Lake? And any decision that the government takes that does not help the human being swim is red penciled, and decisions that allow the human being to swim in Bellandur Lake get the green signal. Unless we have some metric of that kind that we are shooting for, and we could have a similar metric in terms of air breathability, the time has come to really embrace some simple principles and be ruthless about what's allowed and what's not allowed. If some cities, the carrying capacity is exceeded, then you need a principle that unless the infrastructure is in place, you will not give new building permissions. So I really think that we have reached that stage. This is really for government to do. Earlier there was a point, for example, on waste segregation. Now you take Bangalore, most of the contracts for garbage collection do not mandate segregated waste. Yes. So many citizens are really upset that I segregate my waste, but the contractor mixes it. But the contractor mixes it because his business model is to transport that over long distance to a landfill. So unless we deconstruct these perverse incentive mechanisms for contractors, citizens also get disillusioned that you ask me to segregate, I do it, but you go mix it. Let's take citizen participation. It's the biggest farce. The ward committee rules of Bangalore, it actually gives the corporator a veto power. So even if all 30,000 residents of a particular ward wanted a park, if the corporator said no, that park does not happen. Right. So we give lip sympathy to ideas about things, but it doesn't really happen on the ground. And that is where there's a certain amount of citizen pushback, saying that the government is not playing ball despite the citizen wanting a better life.
Okay. All right, Dilip Cherian, Mr. V. Ravichandran and Shaina NC and Gopal Shankar Narayanan, thank you very much for joining me on this discussion. We're just hoping that 2019, at least we don't crumble further when it comes to pollution, traffic, water or waste. And unless we drive good governance, I think this is going to be a hard task. So let's just do that. Let's just participate a little bit more, push the government a bit more, push policymakers a bit more, and make sure that we become part of the change that we are all hoping for so that our cities survive. Thank you so much for joining me on Urban Reality.